From a young age, my way of dealing with this was the martial arts. Threw myself into martial arts training, and I mean I did. I started when I was 8 years old. I'm 42 this year and still going strong. What can I say? I mean, I was unbelievably dedicated. I didn't think anything of it at the time. But when I was like 8, 9 years old, I was coming home from school and training on my own for 2 hours, and then going to the class as many times in the week as I could. And for many, many years, I was training sort of 5, 6 nights a week, and loved every moment of it. But I mean, I really sort of defined myself through that, and it gave me a structure, and it gave me a sense of self, or more of a sense of self. So now we're going to start talking about systems. We'll talk about the external systems of martial art, and then obviously how they relate, the broader application, how they can sort of relate internally as well. So, wow, martial arts then. So I think Bruce Lee said it best when he said, he said something along the lines of, until we've got a human being with 6 arms and 3 legs, then we've got a different way of fighting. Until then, there is one way of fighting between human beings, hand to hand. Now, there are as many different interpretations of that as there are people on the face of the planet. A lot of these people have developed their own systems, some of which have quality and are extremely effective and valid and hold a lot of weight, and others not so much. There's a lot of crap out there, to be honest, especially in the traditional arts, which is a shame. But there's a lot of amazing stuff as well, and especially in the traditional arts. That's my background. So let's think then, how we're going to tackle this one. So I love traditional martial arts. I really do. I'm really, really comfortable with them. I've got a 6th-degree black belt in Shutoryu Karate, and to this day I practice traditional forms and katas and things, and I really, really enjoy it. I don't teach it so much. The thing with the traditional arts is it's extremely stylised and formalised, and a lot of that sort of pertains to the history. You take the katas themselves. Firstly, like, there's so much misinterpretation and nonsense out there, it really sort of muddies the water. But effectively, what your kata was, it was like a mini lesson. It was a record of a mini lesson. A physical way of recording a physical skill before there were DVD players and the like. Also bearing in mind that, in ancient China, a lot of the time it was sort of punishable by death to be caught with any materials pertaining to martial arts on it. Practice of it was massively outlawed. So, and most people couldn't read or write. So even if you could read or write though, and you had a book and a physical hard copy of what you were supposed to be working on, it's pretty condemning evidence in those days. So you got the kata, and a lot of the movements are stylised. They're stylised because certain movements cannot really be practiced without the use of a partner, without hands-on practice. And of course these guys got together and practiced and sparred and knocked lumps out of each other and things. Of course they did. But the kata was a way of sort of rehearsing the skill mentally. And that's what it is. It's a moving meditation, really. And again, the movements, they got very stylised at times, partly to disguise what they were actually doing, especially with your forms like your Tai Chi, or over in Brazil you had the Capoeira, which was disguised as a dance, because it was a system developed by the slaves over there, predominantly foot fighting because the hands were chained, etc. And they used to practice the art and disguise it as a dance. Tai Chi, again, similarly, was sort of passed off as more of, a sort of calisthenics routine, I guess, back in the day. And just exercises for well-being and, stimulating the body, whereas there was a lot of martial element in there. But over the years, it's got even more confused and then misinterpreted God knows how many times, like Chinese whispers. And so, yeah, the quality varies with traditional martial arts massively these days, to be honest. And there are a lot of very odd people, very deranged people in those fields because it's easy to hide. So I, my background is traditional martial arts. Most of the best martial artists I've ever seen have a traditional background because there's something about that regimented, military-esque drilling of technique and that focus on absolute perfection of technique that really comes through. The thing with the trad arts is they can be quite a gentle introduction if you want them to be. Just learning the forms themselves and doing the line work and this, that and the other. So somebody that's, it's a big step to walk into a gym, it's a big enough step to walk into a weights gym, let alone to walk into a boxing gym or a martial arts dojo or something, when you're talking about physical violence and getting punched in the face. So that can be a tough thing to overcome. So the traditional arts, doing the regimented line work and the forms work and things like that, and building those body mechanics first, and then gradually sort of introducing the application of those body mechanics and edging more and more towards the ultimate goal of being competent in a real physical fight. Yeah. And again, I think with traditional martial arts, it's important that the teacher knows what he's doing and he differentiates in that this technique, the way this technique's performed here in this form, this is very stylized, this is what it actually represents, and do some hands-on practice of the actual technique. And then when you're doing the form, you're sort of relating back to your own actual experience of the technique. And like I said, it becomes a moving meditation. There have been loads and loads of studies with elite athletes showing that like a mental rehearsal is more effective sometimes than actual physical rehearsal. Why? Because if you're an elite athlete or a long-time martial artist or whatever, you can phone it in. We all do it. You're not fully engaged in your training. Your body knows what to do and you're going off pure muscle memory. And you can put the work in and the sweat in, but unless you are like engaged, unless you're really present in the moment, you're not having the same effect if you're not like emotionally involved in that training. Whereas if you are doing a purely mental rehearsal, you have to focus. You cannot let the mind go elsewhere. You cannot phone it in. You have to be focused on recreating those techniques in your head as best as possible. So it can be a really powerful tool. So yeah, obviously the traditional martial arts are also an easy place to hide because you can dilute it and you can, you can make your excuses, you can sit on the sidelines, you can be forever the student, you know what I mean, and never really take it to the next level of actual reality, Obviously that's not the way I've trained, half the stuff that I've used in real life self-protection situations I learned in an incredibly formal manner in the traditional martial arts. Obviously I also do a lot of hands-on work and sparring and what have you, and I don't, that's really important. If you're talking about, learning how to do it for real, you got to fight, you got to spar, you got to put hands on. Otherwise, you're playing tennis without a ball. It doesn't translate. And yeah, of course, I know, everybody knows, you can't spar the same way you would fight in a real life situation. Sparring is rehearsal, it's practice, it's a training drill. Real life is war in the macrocosm, anything goes, just get away and stay in one piece. So no, of course we cannot spar with groin strikes and eye gouges and this, that and the other because it wouldn't last very long, okay? But what you're going to learn from sparring is you're going to learn distance control. You're going to learn, basically you're going to learn how to take a shot, because the first time you get hit should not be in a real life self-protection situation or, if you're competitive, a ring or a cage or whatever, because you're in a different world, you'll be on a different planet, yeah? So it's really sort of quite important to get your body used to absorbing the blows and dealing with the worst case scenario as well, so that it's not a shock when it happens in reality. And some people might not like me talking like this, but that's the fact, that's the truth. It is what it is, yeah? So yeah, definitely spar, deal with the adrenaline, deal with the physical damage, learn movement, learn the hand-eye coordination. Obviously it's one thing hitting a pad or punching and kicking in fresh air, it's another thing striking a moving target, a moving opponent that's not letting you strike them and that's trying to strike you back. So all of those are really important sort of aspects of the sort of the hands-on application. And I'll come back to that term martial artist as well. So martial is warlike, killing ability. And the thing that I love about martial arts is your raw materials, that you're working with, is like the worst shit in the universe. It's physical violence. It's the most ugly aspect of this existence, right? And you're taking that and you are creating something positive from it. You create a system, you create a form, you create a way to deal with those aspects of life. You give yourself some agency, You put you put yourself back in an amount of control. Obviously, we're never in control of our environment, but we are always in control of our response to it. And that's the cornerstone of martial art, always has been. The samurai used to, acceptance basically, accepting the moment completely no matter what it holds, not labelling it, just being there in the moment and dealing with it, turning on the appropriate bit of yourself at the appropriate time. And the samurai have a saying about this. There's one in the, I'm going to say this, I think it's right, it's the Hagikuri. I think that's how you say it. But it's Yamamoto Tsunemoto, I think. Because Miyamoto Musashi was the Book of Five Rings, so I think it was Tsunemoto. Again, probably terrible pronunciation, sorry, but worth a look. But there's a passage in that which is amazing, which, paraphrasing, but it says there's something to be learned from a rainstorm. And it says that by running quickly along the road and trying to hide under the eaves of buildings and things, you still get wet. Whereas if you accept the soaking you're about to receive, it's no different, it's just that you're not perplexed. So yeah, definitely sort of, controlling your response to your environment no matter what. And the other thing the samurai used to do was they used to sort of practice daily meditation on inevitable death. And it's not a macho thing or a negative thing. It's quite simply, it's reminding you not to be careless with your moments, because life is just a succession of moments. And if you focus on each one and focus on getting that right, the next piece falls into place. And what I would say is, when you're under intense pressure, and this is something that I've had the chance to practice again and again with combat sports, but in life it applies massively as well. The more difficult I'm finding my headspace, if I'm suffering with depression or anxiety or whatever, I break it down. If a day at a time is too much to get through, I'll aim for an hour. If that's too much, a minute. If it really, really is intense, I will literally take it one breath at a time. And it's the same when I'm in a ring or a cage and I'm in the latter rounds and my lungs are burning and I'm in massive oxygen debt and I've got blood in my eyes and I'm pretty slightly concussed half the time and I've still got a very competent opponent in front of me trying to take my head off. Well, I just accept where I am and I take it one breath at a time. Everything is in the next technique, everything is in just that next second, because there's nothing that you can't handle for 1 second at a time. It's that kind of intense mental focus of coming right into the moment and staying there that needs to be practiced. And combat sport is one of the best ways of doing it. And obviously, there is the direct, crossover to life in general. No matter what's going on, no matter how horrendous your situation is, how much pain you're in, you can get through it, but you just have to break it down 1 second at a time, one breath at a time, stay in the moment, and then you have to have your, like I say, your systems and your beliefs in place, because they are important. Systems are really, really important, and a good system is a very valuable thing.